Hello, I'm Joshua Kitts, the director of the Composed Dream Game Marketplace, and today I want to do something a little different. I want to look at most of the catalog of a publisher. And that publisher is Pendelhaven and all of their runic game system games. Alright, so one of the reasons for this approach is there's quite a catalog of games that we've just added all at once, and Pendelhaven also does have a lot of their own videos that go into detail and look very closely at all of the books. So this is going to be a quick overview to give folks some context, and I might put some links to some of those videos as well in their channel. Alright, so on my Composed Dream Game Marketplace RPG shelf behind here, I've got things set up for us to look at. So, the very first is Fafnir's Treasure. This is an adventure and a quick start. So, one of the probably easiest starting points to get into the Fate of the Norns engine. Most of the runic game system books use the Fate of the Norns game system, but what they all have in common is you are drawing runes, these guys up here. So, Norse runes of the Elder variety. This is a set of wooden runes and a bag. So a character would have a certain number of runes. They wouldn't have all of these. They'd put them in a bag. You draw them out. Depending on both the color and the symbol, you could do different things, and you'd have powers related to that. There are a couple engines in their books that are more story games. These are relatively rules light, but Fate of the Norns is also very sort of exception based, so every power works differently. Think of it like everything you're adding to your character is kind of like a spell, so it does something specific and unique. In say, Dungeons and Dragons, right? Each spell is different, it does different things. So, Fafnir's Treasure is a great starting point. Generally, all of the books are, they're all full color, and they are lovingly illustrated. So, if you want some example characters and an adventure to get you started on playing Norse, Norse-inspired warriors and Ragnarok, Fafnir's Treasure is the place to start. Now, after you've done that, you probably want to pick up the Fate of the Norns core rulebook. This is a hardcover. Now, as I'm going through these, I'm going to try to put on how much each of these are, and there's, of course, going to be links to all the stuff down below. We do sell PDFs and print of everything in combos, so if you get a print version, you always get a PDF. You can also get the print version. Right now, I should also mention all of the books are sold as if Canadian dollars are par with US, which is a deal. At least until the end of the quarter. At least until then, they'll be at that rate. So it's a great place. It's a great place to pick them up from the Composed Dream Game Marketplace. Great time. So, again, it's a beautiful hardcover book. Gives you all the rules for many different archetypes, which are sort of like your character classes and all the powers that they have, and context for the GM to run as well. And there's playmats and so on that go with that. I'm just trying to think if I have a quick playmat. So these are some of the sort of play sheets that you would play with if you were playing Fate of the Norns, Ragnarok. And, little initiative tiles that you as the GM might want to use to keep track of things as well. one of the reasons I'm wearing this Phantasm shirt is because I first played Fate of the Norns, Ragnarok, I believe at Phantasm. It's possible it was a breakout, but I know Andrew Valkouskas, who's the author of this, and the head honcho at Pendelhaven Publishing, has come to Phantasm fairly often, and a number of people who have attended there have written books for this lineup. So this is the Illuminated Edda, and I want to take a few moments to talk about this. This is all, essentially, of the Norse sagas and poetic Eddas translated and lovingly illustrated by Andrew Valkouskas. It also includes a few excerpts from other, like Celtic, so other cultural classic poems and so on. So translations of those into modern English, as it were, so they're easy to read, easy to get context from, and it is quite lovingly illustrated. So if you want a wonderful resource for all of that mythology, all of that rich lore for your game, or just because it's something that fascinates you, this is a marvelous thing to pick up. This also has a simple, short story game in it. It's referred to as the Rune Game System Prime, I believe. It's meant to be played very quickly in, say, half an hour, so you can tell a story with some friends using the runes. Which, of course, you could also print out fairly simply and cut out if you didn't want to have to pick up a set. Alright, so as I mentioned, this is a adventure. This is one of the first adventures, I believe, produced for Fate of the Norns, Ragnarok. This is called Seath and Sword. It's by Chris Chalice. He's also one of the lead designers on Vanagard up here, which I'll get to in a moment. There is a corresponding book written by Chris Chalice as well that goes with this. This is an 80-page adventure. It is meant, does it say, for what level characters or denizens it is meant for? I can't tell at a quick blush. If I find that, I'll put that up there as well. Very nice. The trade dress on it is a little bit different than some of the other books. I'm going to talk about... I had a segue into Vanagard, so I'm going to go with that and segue into Vanagard. So this is a story game. It is I would say, a simpler engine. It's meant to be played in one setting. It's a one-shot RPG in a box. There are story cards that help tell the story. This is kind of early creation myth, whereas Fate of the Norns, Ragnarok, is end of the world sort of a mythology. So Vanagard is you play as Vanfolk, which are these little animals who are Freya's kind of personal folk, and you go on an adventure for the goddess, essentially, and play that story out. Now, this does contain both French and English rules and everything you need to play. So there's a rune set in here, there's the story cards, there are a number of other things. It says on the backs it would take 45 minutes. I suspect it would normally take longer. A story could certainly take about 45 minutes. But I know I played it once with Christopher, and it took about an hour and a half, I want to say. Now, that was an early playtest version, so before they had produced the full boxed set. Alright, a couple more adventures. So, we have 2 adventures. These are in a series. We have Dead Man's Blade. So you'll see on the top here, there's a little rune that says C1 and C2. These are in a series. There is a novel called Horn of the Kraken by Stephen B. Pearl, which this is playing off of. So these are a little longer than the Seath and Sword adventure. The Dead Man's Blade is over 100 pages. I want to say, well, it's 116. Lovely book there. Horn of the Kraken is, again, about the same. Illustrations are good. There are characters printed in both of these that you can use to play the game as well. So you can certainly use your own characters, but there are example characters in all three of those adventures, and in Fafnir's Treasure, where you can use those characters if you wish. We have 2 supplements that expand the rule system for Fate of the Norns. So this is Lords of the Ash, which in some ways is a companion to the Illuminated Edda, from my understanding. This would sort of be all of the rules that would go into this. Fate of the Norns does have an earlier edition. It wasn't as widely available, I believe. So the Fate of the Norns book sometimes gets talked of like its 2.0 version of the rules. You would extend this with this, would be 2.3 if you were playing with Lords of the Ash. This really brings in a lot of the sort of gods and Jotun, so giants, and those sort of aspects, the immortal type characters, and the different realms of the world tree, all of those sorts of things. And again, it provides some additional archetypes that you can play, like I believe there's an Angel of Death in here, and some other archetypes as well. So I just looked at something that was talking about Ettins. So that is Lords of the Ash. And then we also have another supplement called Dungeons of the North, which expands the rules some more, provides you with extra archetypes, extra contents. There are a lot of new monsters, there's new powers and skills to go along with those, and so on. It is a large 421 page book. There's a lot in here. Yeah, I'm getting distracted by cool art and archetypes and so on. So there's a Borghild there. Love the layout. Alright, we have 2 more physical books that are currently available and up on the Composed Dream Game Marketplace. There will be some more that we will be adding as well that have been more recently released. I might do a bit of a jump and talk about that. There is, if you are a D&D 5e aficionado, Creatures from Fairy Tale and Myth in 5e, so it has the same contents as this in terms of the creatures, and both also include some crafting rules for either game engine. So this is a Fate of the Norn version, and this is a 5e version. Different rule sets, similar content in concept. So there's a blacksmith class in this. I think there's a blacksmith archetype in Creatures of Fairy Tale and Myth. This covers I'm just going to try to have a quick look and see if I can pick out some creatures from the there are quest ideas for every one of the creatures, so it's fairly extensive. Write-ups. So there's like a Durgar write-up. It is 3 pages? Like 2 pages. And has a description, vulnerabilities, all sorts of things. This one in particular also substantially updates some of the rules. So we were talking earlier about how Lords of the Ash was kind of a 2.3. Denizens of the North, if you're playing with that, it's sort of a 2.7. And then this would be almost considered updating the rules to a 3.0 kind of rule set. So if you think of it as similar to, say, a RuneQuest game where the game isn't fundamentally changing that much, everything is still compatible across the line. You could play with a 2.0 archetype, make a few tweaks perhaps, things will still work. So something to keep in mind. I hope this has piqued your interest in some of the Runic game system lineup, some of Pendelhaven's titles, Fate of the Norns system, Vanagard perhaps. A couple great starting places would be Fafnir's Treasure, Vanagard, the Illuminated Edda. Those are all the sort of, I would say, good entry points. You can also, of course, go dive straight into the main Fate of the Norns Ragnarok rulebook, or the upcoming Celtic Cyclopedia. Sorry, not the Celtic Cyclopedia. The Children of Eru, which we should have up soon as well. If you're particularly interested in any one of those titles, there is probably a video from Pendelhaven going over them. If you do pick up any of them from the Composed Dream Game Marketplace, I do get 10%. All of the rest goes to the publisher. We do also ship to friendly local game stores, so if you were looking to order it or get it from your local game shop, they're more than welcome to reach out to us, and we will ship it out to them for the friendly local game store rate. That's all for now. I'm interested in whether people think this sort of high-level rundown of a publisher's games is useful. We do have some other publishers with a fairly extensive catalog where I could do what I hope is fairly concise videos, just touching on each title very quickly and something about them. If that sounds like it would be interesting, let me know. And as always, good gaming.